Hi, good evening.
Great, and thank you
yes, for... I can hear you. Good evening.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us. Now, you're asking that the Ghanaian people should burden share coming to help government to essentially pay for this debt in the energy sector. And the consumer is also looking at all the corruption, the inefficiency, and everything that's happening in the sector, and then also being asked to burden share and pay for it. How do you intend to convince us that this is a worthy venture to go on?
The first point that must be made is that one of the reasons, or in fact the underlying reason for the introduction of this levy has to do with the acquisition or the purchasing of liquid fuels to power the thermal plant. If you look at our energy mix today, our energy mix currently is largely dominated by thermal, which will be around 70%. And these thermal plants will either run on natural gas or some form of liquid fuels. Either it's running on HFO or it's running on LCO or any other fuel that it will require. And so over the period, what has happened is that the government of Ghana has always had the responsibility of providing fuels for these thermal plants. And if you look at the simulation that has been done, if you are going to now increase or include the cost of these fuels to the electricity price build-up, the tariff build-up, the analysis done by PURC shows that in some cases, if we are not careful, it may go as high as 68%. The finance minister puts it as above 50%. And so that is what the focus is. Because if you even have a very efficient energy sector, for example, if ECG is able to collect all the monies for power sold, the component of fuel, liquid fuels to be precise, is outside the price build-up for the tariffs. And this is a major challenge. Beyond that, we also don't have the reserve margins. When it comes to your plants, you should always have some reasonable reserves that you'll be able to fall on. Those capacity charges are paid for. We don't have any provision for that. So this intervention is largely for fuels. But let me come to your question about the inefficiencies. It's not that the government has taken the easy way out of introducing a levy whilst it's ignored the challenges that the sector faces. Yes, we recognize that this government inherited a very challenged energy sector, especially the power sector. If you look at the debts related to generation alone, as of December 2024, it stood at $3.1 billion. If we look at the debt to IPPs alone, you're looking at 1.75 billion United States dollars. I'm not talking about cedis. If you put together the debt in the sector, you're looking at over 80 billion. Thankfully, because of prudent management of the economy, we've seen some reduction or some gains have been made. So now the figure is around 67 billion. Beyond that, ECG itself has its own challenges when it comes to the deficit that it has every month, which averagely stands about 2 billion. All these challenges or all these issues are being addressed concurrently by the government, being led by the... So it is not as if the inefficiencies have been dealt with. There's several reforms, structural reforms that are being dealt with by the ministry to ensure that we have a very efficient power sector. The goal, the ultimate goal, is to ensure that at all material times, Ghanaians enjoy reliable supply of power at affordable cost.
But you see, in the end, the affordable cost that you talk about is also one that has been questioned as well. And we'll get to that as to whether really this position that the finance minister takes, that this 1 cedi addition of the levy is not going to impact on the prices of petroleum products at the pumps. The OMC say that cannot be true. I mean, you are imposing a levy. So who is going to bear the burden of that levy?
appreciate the context with which the finance minister made that statement. What the finance minister said was that, yes, ordinarily once you're introducing a levy or a new tax, whatever it is, the consumer is going to pay. And once the consumer is going to pay, it will have an impact on the price buildup. What the finance minister said was, over the period, some gains have been made. And if you look at the gains that have been made, if you have the exchange rates moving from 17 to 10, definitely is going to have a significant impact on the fuel price buildup. When you look at the petroleum side, if the indicators for determining the prices of fuel will be, number one, the crude oil price on the international market. Number two will be the price of finished products on the international market, which normally we benchmark it using the Platts benchmark, S&P's Platts. Then the last one will be the exchange rate. If you have a CD move from 17 to 10, that's significant. So what the finance minister was trying to say was, because of the gains that have been made within the period, yes, the prices should have gone down slightly, but the prices will remain same, and that the consumer would not have to burden or have to pay an additional 1 CD on each liter, because gains have been made, but the prices will be same, and then that will translate into the taxes. So it is not that in perpetuity the consumer is not going to pay. No, absolutely, that cannot be the case. It cannot be. What the finance minister said was that because of the gains we've made within this period,
right,
for this particular pricing window and the projection for the next pricing window, the consumer will see the prices unchanged at the pump.
Okay, so it's important you put this clarity. So in the immediate term, the impact of this levy will not be felt, but eventually it will be felt. I think it's better to let us know so that when we start...
Yes, eventually it will be felt based on the indicators that I've put out.
Okay.
So for example, if you have the exchange rate getting better, for example, if you have the exchange rate moving, what it means is that further gains are going to be made. If you have finished products, price of finished products go down on the international market, what it will mean is that further gains will be made.
Okay.
And once that is done, the consumer would not feel the impact.
But that's where the issue is. That's what the issue is, because if you're looking at also all things being equal, that the currency is going to do well, continuously sustained, but then the crude oil prices on the world market, we don't have control over it. I mean, as we speak, crude oil price on the world market is going high, is increasing. And that is not going to get any better if we're going into summer, for instance, where there's increased demand for fuel. We don't have control over that external component. That influences our price buildup, because what determines our price at the pumps is the CD appreciation or depreciation, the price of crude oil on the world market, and the taxes and levies. You have introduced a new tax, which is going to increase the tax and levies component on the fuel price buildup. Then we're seeing the CD doing well now. But if the world market price of crude oil goes up, then what happens?
Alfred, like you mentioned, what we have control over is what the government has managed so efficiently. And that is something that we must commend the government for. That the CD that at least we can control. The other 2 years, you're right, we do not control them. But so far, the government has performed very well when it comes to management of the currency. And we are all trusting that definitely will continue to maintain the efficiency and then the improvement that we've seen in our fiscal space. Once we find prices go up, definitely the government is not an insensitive government. This is a government that has worked so hard for the people of Ghana to benefit. A government that has ensured that every citizen who is purchasing fuel is benefiting about 4 Ghana cedi per liter. There's no way the government will still insist. From time to time, this policy will be reviewed,
right,
looking at the factors to ensure that the people of Ghana are not beaten or they're not driven into much difficulties. If the prices are going up, definitely the government will look at it and look at what can be moved and some respite at the end of the day to give some respite to the consumer. So it's not cast in stone that at all material times the government is desperate, give me 1 cedi, even if it's going up, still give me one. No.
Right.
from time to time, like the president said, the monies that have been accrued will be published, will be audited for everybody to see what has been done. If there are difficulties, the government would certainly, as transparent as it's been, open up to the people of Ghana.
I see. But very quickly, before I let you go, what is the sunset clause in this levy? Because we've seen ESLA, the sunset clause was supposed to be 5 years. It's still on our books. We are paying for it. I haven't seen any sunset clause in this one. When is it supposed to be off our books?
Absolutely. That's why, that's why when you look at what the government has done, the government says that instead of introducing a sunset clause, rather, we should improve monitoring. We should look at the whole energy sector as a whole, the whole sector as a whole, analyze and resolve every bottleneck or challenge, and then also introduce new measures, do the structural reforms to ensure that from time to time, gains are being made, and then you can review as you progress. It is not that you say like ESLA, we said we were going to do it for 5 years. You had a new administration coming under President Akufo-Addo. The money, what was supposed to be 5 years, they issued bonds for 15 years. The monies were diverted into other funds. The monies were not used for the intended purpose. And that's now the same problem that was created, the same problem that the fund was created to solve has even worsened by over almost 100% and more. That is why the government is not fixated on the sunset clause. No, what the government is doing is that tackle all the problems. For example, we are spending $1.2 billion on liquid fuels. What does the government intend doing? You are trying to get more gas from ENI. You are getting more gas from Nigeria. You are getting more gas from our Jubilee fields. You are also going to construct the gas processing plant phase 2. Once all these things happen, what it will mean is that you're going to reduce the cost drastically, because the cost of liquid fuels to gas is almost half the cost.
Okay.
So if today you have 1.2 on liquid fuels, if you have gas with the same quantity, what it means is that you are spending 600 million. So with time, all these debts will be dealt with, and then we'll have a clean bill of health when it comes to energy sector.
Well, you know what? I mean, this is a conversation that is evolving in many ways. We're not ending it now. Richmond, I know the coming days we're going to have to engage a bit more on this, obviously, to get all of us along the way and to come along to understand why this is even important. Someone will have to pay for this debt, but then again, consumers would have to understand why we have to be part or burden share in this process. I've got to close the chapter on this, but in 30 seconds, I'm going to give it to you.
Just 10 seconds. The levy that the government is taking is not that all the monies will solve the problem. No, the problems are multifaceted, and that there are different bottlenecks that will be dealt. This will go to support. But definitely we still need more money if you look at our consumption and how much we'll be getting out of this revenue.
And that goes without a doubt. But I thank you.